mean, look, it's not as if Kyle Dubas oversold what he was going to do when NHL free agency opened up. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Yeah, where do I start? Well, there actually was one headline move. That was Alex Nedeljkovic being traded to the Sharks for a third-round pick in 2028. A clear, a transparent move on Dubas' part to open up, and I believe vitally so, a spot on the NHL roster for one of the two young goaltenders. That means that Tristan Jarry would continue to be the veteran, whether or not he's the starter or the backup. And from there, look, Yoel Blomqvist is going to have a big edge over Sergei Murashov because he's older, he's been in North America longer, and he's been exposed to more activity, meaning a greater frequency of games and practices than what's commonly had overseas. But if you have those three and Ned in the same camp, there's no way to look at that from the inside or the outside as anything but, oh, well, yeah, they're going to give that to the two guys with the NHL contracts. This, I believe, raises those stakes while also recognizing further that Jarry's contract is not tradable. Because I can assure you, Dubas would have traded Jarry if there had been any suitor. Also yesterday, and kind of as expected, Phil Tomasino and Connor Dewar were retained. The previous day, they were not qualified as restricted free agents. That allowed them to be unrestricted free agents for about 5 minutes or so. Both came back to Dubas and said, yeah, we'll take whatever it was that you were offering. And both are still here. I kind of thought that would be the case with Tomasino. I wasn't sure at all about Dewar. I know Tomasino a little bit better than Dewar. And I very much got the sense that Phil wanted to stick around given the opportunity that's here in Pittsburgh. Now, to that subject and to all the other non-excitement over the course of the day, the Penguins' actual free agency acquisitions, and sit down for these, were Justin Brazeau, Parker Wotherspoon, and Caleb Jones. Yes, exactly those guys. Brazeau split a lot of time of late between the NHL and the AHL. Wotherspoon did the same. Jones did the same. These are not exciting acquisitions, and anybody who would be attempting to paint them as such isn't to be taken seriously. They are exactly what Dubas had stated the previous day that he'd intended to do, which was to find players who could come in and legitimately push the kids in camp to have to earn their spots on the NHL roster. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think that means. And this is not based on reporting. This is based on just me looking at the overall situation and attempting to piece it together. I think it means that Dubas and his staff have X number of younger players that they believe are either in line for a real NHL opportunity or could scrap their way into such an opportunity. And within that, I believe that they're at their number. I know that sounds nuts because I know no one would look at that roster right now and say, oh yeah, man, that's it. They got it. So what I'm actually saying here, well, look at it this way. Okay, you have, at the moment anyway, you have a top six, at least theoretically. You have Sidney Crosby, Brian Rust, Rickard Rakell. You have Evgeny Malkin. You have Rutger McGroarty, Ville Koivunen. And I know it's probably not going to be in that order. You would probably split the kids up and whatever else here. But you have a top six. You have six guys that in some form or other make a top six. So staying with me here, just the forwards. And presuming, as I believe will be the case, that Noel Acciari gets traded, that maybe Danton Heinen gets cast off in some form. I see among the veterans Kevin Hayes, Blake Lizotte, Tommy Novak, now Tomasino and Dewar, Boko Imama as your enforcer guy, and that's already 6, by the way, ... kids. That could be a Tristan Brose. That could be a Philip Hollander. That could be Valtteri Puustinen if he ever shoots the puck. But I'll remind that as I'm talking about them, I'm talking about all of them past 12 names I already gave you, minus Achari and Heinen. Now do you see where I was going with this? Okay, let's do the defense now. On the roster and in the fold, not free agents. That means you're going to scratch Matt Grzelcyk and P.O. Joseph. And who you have are new guy Connor Clifton, just acquired from the Sabres, Ryan Graves, Vladislav Kolyachonok, Ryan Shea, and switching to the right-handed guys, Chris Letang, Erik Karlsson. And for now, that's it at the NHL level. Maybe Jack St. Ivany makes some kind of big comeback. Maybe Harrison Brunick's given a long look, like wouldn't that be amazing? But even that doesn't really allow itself, that scenario, the latitude to just go dropping in a whole bunch of other veteran defensemen. Clifton, who I should have clarified is a right-handed shot, is there for some semblance of balance of veterans between the left and right sides. But if you add another to the left side, you're starting to crowd people out, like Owen Pickering, who I didn't even mention. You're starting to crowd out people on the right side, like the ones that I did mention. You can't do that. You can't do that in this environment. You can't have one of those fake claims to a competitive camp. You have to make it a real, live competition. You have to have both the older players and the younger players believing that they'll get rewarded if they perform accordingly. Specifically, if they perform better than the person with whom they're competing. That has to be honest. That's a transparent thing, and a locker room will see right through it if it isn't. So if you were hitting play today hoping that I'd say, it's just the beginning of free agency, they got a long way to go, I don't think they do. I really don't. I think if there are going to be additions, they're going to be additions of even more younger guys in some form or other, possibly even through gasp offer sheets for RFAs. Imagine putting that cap space to that kind of usage. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season. From Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Eli, who says, DK, the one thing I can't wrap my head around in all of this is how do the Penguins have so much cap space, yet keep talking about not adding anyone significant this year? People love to point to the Capitals rebuild, yet they seem to ignore that some of the biggest features of said rebuild were free agent signings like Andrew Mangiapane, who, by the way, is available again now, and Pierre-Luc Dubois in a trade for Jacob Chychrun. Adding 3 players of that quality to this group of Penguins would certainly give a much different feel than 3 Anthony Beauvilliers, as you've been putting it. And by the way, if they do trade Erik Karlsson, they can't just sign 10 more fourth liners, so why not make a real move or two? I thought, honestly here, Gil, that I was the only one that was fixating on the cap here over the past 48 hours. It's heartening to hear that I am not, because this is the one component to this phase that really isn't adding up for me. See, a little bit of background, some important background, actually. If you look at the moves that have been made so far this offseason, that includes trades, signings, up to date, including everything yesterday, Ned's contract going out, the Penguins have added a little bit less than $3 million to their roster. That's it. That leaves them roughly a little bit less than $18 million in cap space. That's a lot of cap space. And they have no one of urgency to sign unless you're in that Matt Grzelcyk fan club or something. I just went over pretty much the entire roster, including possibilities to come up as prospects, basically, who would obviously be making at or close to the NHL minimum. Now, if this were the NFL, and it's not, I would say, hey, listen, just stay below the cap and roll that extra cap space over to next season, because you can do that in football. Can't in the NHL. It's use it or lose it. So is Fenway Sports Group already pretty unpopular in Pittsburgh, I can safely summarize, though not nearly as unpopular as they appear to be in Boston for a whole bunch of other reasons. Is FSG going to just say, you know what? We're not going to spend that money. We're just going to pocket it, or we're going to, I don't know, pay some bonuses or who knows what. What's going to happen with that? They have pledged to spend up to the cap. And to their credit, they have actually done so. Well, how does FSG look itself in the figurative mirror after Sidney Crosby takes $8.7 million in each of these 3 seasons in his current extension, and he does so for the stated purpose of allowing the Penguins to continue to compete while he's here and allotting the cap space for that to happen, and then they just leave $18 million sitting there when the season starts? No way. No way. Something is off here. I don't know what. I wish I did. I'm certainly going to try to find out. You can go and offer sheet guys. And Kyle Dubas has even stated on the record that that's part of their thinking. But you can't do it in any unlimited way. In other words, if they want to go after Mackie Samoskevich, hear me out on this one, okay? He's 22 years old. He's promising. He's with the Panthers. He just got a qualifying offer so that they could retain his rights as a restricted free agent. Well, there's no such thing really as retaining those rights if someone else comes in and makes an offer sheet. Now, here's where it gets a little bit complicated, but if you spend over a certain figure on this offer sheet, you have to give up your next first-round pick. Well, the Penguins' next first-round pick, I hate to say this, but it's true, might be a really attractive one, especially if they end up in the Gavin McKenna lottery for next year. So do you risk that? Do you take a chance that the Panthers wouldn't have the cap space or the cash to match any qualifying offer that you make? I mean, look at what's happened in Sunrise over the past 3 days. They've kept everybody almost. Sam Bennett stayed. Aaron Ekblad stayed. Brad Marchand stayed. Really didn't think Marchand would stay. They're just hell-bent on going for a third cup. But as some older hockey fans might recall from the early 90s, the kids get left out of those. The kids just become an afterthought. That's how and why the Penguins sent Marcus Naslund out for an enforcer. Easily the worst trade of Craig Patrick's otherwise brilliant tenure. But it happens. You get caught up in the parades. You get caught up in the moment. And maybe Florida management wouldn't be able to handle this. Maybe this is where that money would go. Maybe Dubas would go on some sort of offer sheet spree, raiding teams or attempting to raid them of their restricted free agents. Be a really nice use of the money, wouldn't it? Ooh, boy. This is going to be fun, huh? I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one tomorrow.